Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. How are you this morning? Hope you're doing well on this beautiful day. The storm is past and the sun is shining. It is which, is pretty much what happens every time. Good morning, Karen. Great to see you here. Hope you're doing all right. Hope you're enjoying the sunshine. Hey, John, good morning. We're just getting the cards and stuff out today. They'll hit the mail. So we're excited to have those go out. Thanks so much for your work and your efforts on that. Hey, Bonnie, good morning to you. Sorry that you're trapped in your home. That's kind of an inside joke, but she sent me a picture this morning of some of the not so devastation of the storm last night. So, hey, Jane, good morning. How are you? Hope you're doing all right. Good morning, everyone. So, I hope everybody's doing great. Let's get going this morning. It is the 12th day of December. We are in the middle of December on this 11/11, and I'm glad you're here and a part of the journey, that you make a little bit of this day a part of your story, which is really what I'm hoping to talk about today. I will always, one of the things I always try to point out in any memorial setting or anything like that, is that particularly when I'm inviting people in the context of a memorial to share a story, and whether we share them in the public sense or whether we share them one to the other as we gather at repast or something like that. But one of the things I always try to impress upon people who gather to memorialize someone is that story and the living of our days together is actually the most sacred of things. Because if you look at Bible and you see what Bible is in its many forms, and it's a lot of different things, nobody is going to deny that, but what it really is a story. That's what it is. At its core is the story from two people lost in the woods and to the story of the holy city, New Jerusalem, and this universal place of beauty in which we will all come to dwell. And so it is, and it has within it characters, it has within it moments of glory, and it has within it moments of ash and despair. It is, like every great story, a journey through the very highest and lowest of what is possible within the human experience, or maybe even within the divine experience. If that's true, if that is how God comes to us, when Jesus really wants to make a point, as I talked about on this last Sunday, if Jesus really wants to make a point, he doesn't give us stereo instructions about how to behave. He doesn't give us a moral code or a moral ethos. He gives us a story. And that if these things are the case, if the most sacred book in the world is a story, if when God comes to us in the form of person, what he gives us is a story, then what I think is so brilliantly important is for us to begin to consider our story. And both in many different ways. One is the telling of it, because we had the honor last night of having Steve Manchester with us, and I know the weather kept a lot of people away, and that was really a heartbreak because Steve first is pretty compelling in terms of the story that he tells. He's a local author. He has a couple dozen books out, and he is but his great or dozen plus books, but his last great endeavor that he's been working on that just came to publish is a book, You Will Be Peter, which is a historical fiction about the life of Peter, and particularly about the life of Jesus from Peter's perspective. So it's a telling of the story from the Apostle Peter's point of view, and it's funny the amount of kind of agita he's experienced because of this. There's a whole group of people out there that are just, oh, this is apocryphal, this is horrible, he's not true to the scriptural word, blah blah blah. There's a whole group of people out there who find it a curiosity, but I'm touched by, but first, because if you spend any time at all talking with Steve, what you understand that this is an act of faith, that he had no interest in necessarily leaping into the middle of religious schism, but he felt called to tell this story when asked by the initiator of the program of the book, Jerry Latham. And so this journey that they've gone on, this journey that they've experienced together, that to go back 2,000 years to try and find the story of Jesus from Peter's perspective, and to tell it, it's really an amazing thing, and so it was really wonderful to hear his story of all that. But the thing that I think was most compelling is really that how he got his start, is how Steve got his start, which was looking at his grandfather, who he credits as, the term goes down here, a swamp Yankee, and and as a great storyteller. He talks about his grandfather as kind of not an educated man, but as a guy who could tell some of the best stories that he ever, and as a young boy, to look towards his grandfather, he had this aspirational sense of being a storyteller like his grandfather, and he would make that promise to God. He would make it in the course of his wartime experience, and as a result of that would end up publishing the books that he's and all of those began. You might wonder how they began. They began, well, yes, with him telling a story, which is telling some of his story. Now, all of his works are fiction, but they're not, except for I think his wartime article. But they're not fiction. They are amalgams of his own experience, and that. I tell you all this to bring us back to, here we are in the midst of the greatest story ever told. It's the 12th day of December. It is actually the feast day of Guadalupe, who was the visitation of Mary to the Mexican people, which is one of this, I think a friend of mine who's a chaplain, the one that enabled me to go on Camino, pointed out this morning, which I thought was just brilliant. He says that the Virgin of Guadalupe is appearance to the Mexicans, both the Mestizo Indians and the Spaniards. She appeared as a racial mix between the two. She was neither fully Indian nor fully Spanish, and she appeared at her apparition, and still to this day, if you go look at pictures of her. So it became even the melding of the Spanish story and the indigenous story in Mexico to become the Mexican story. The stories we tell about ourselves, the stories we tell about other people, the stories we tell about God and our relationship to God, in the midst of this time, in the midst of the greatest story ever told, of God coming into the world to be as we are, to be vulnerable, to be impoverished, to be hunted, to be shunned, and yet to still shine in the midst of all of it, to the point where those who would even be against him as he hangs on the cross, that even the Roman soldier that as Jesus hangs on the cross would look at him and say, surely this was the Son of God. And that's even before the resurrection. That they would come to see in Jesus this incredible shining light, which would begin with the shining light of a star in the east, followed by wise men. That this great and beautiful story that we never in 2,000 years tire both either of telling or of talking about or of working through. As I started working on our story of the that we'll tell on Christmas Eve. What I try to do on Christmas Eve is we have we have two services. We have a lessons and carol service at the 7 o'clock, and I try to each year I try to pull out the different one element of the story and tell a little bit of that. And this year we're talking about angels, and this year we'll hear some of the angel stories. So we'll sing the angels carols. We will lift up the portions of Luke where the angels come and are part of the visitation. But that's, again, the angelic story is just one piece of it. There's the shepherd story. There's the wise men story. There's the Mary and Joseph story itself. There's the world story around it. There's even within the story itself, there are so many different stories. And within the world itself, there are so many different stories in you. Friends, you have a story to tell. You have a story of your father or your grandfather or your grandmother or your mom. You have a story to tell of your brothers and your sisters. You have a story to tell of your church and of the people whom to your left and to your right, and to the people that you are in covenant with. You have a story to tell of the place in which you live. And that story isn't just about making sure we get this down so that people in the past will know, but it is the encounter with the holy of your days. It's the encounter with the holy. Remember where we started. If this book that God gives us to be able to know the nature of God in Bible is a story, when Jesus wants to make the most important theological points, he tells a story, then what are we to do? What are we to do with this incredible life that we've been given? With these people who have loved us in our lives, and you may feel at this moment unlovable, but there were people who have loved you in these days. What are we to do with our enemies that have been set against us in whatever form or whatever way that might look, or those who? What are we to do with all of these characters that have come to be a part of our story? Are we just to set them aside and let them go, just let them fall into the distance and the mists of time? Or should we tell their stories? So my hope for you, as these days unfold, as we come into another weekend, the third Sunday of Advent, as we come into this time when we're gathering around tables, when we're going to parties, when we're inherently being drawn to each other and with each other, is I hope you will tell the stories. Tell the stories of Christmases past, if you have to start somewhere. Tell the stories of the people whom you love, or tell the stories of the people you hate. Tell the stories of your adventures of being alive and being in this world. Tell the stories of what you've done. I think this. If you look at the division of the world, if you look at the world, the way the shalom of the world, the peace of the world, the unity of the world has been broken. It is broken because we no longer think this. We no longer think this. This is the thing. It actually is true that we have it. We just don't. We think we don't. And what we think we don't have is shared story. What we think we don't have is we have nothing in common with the people who walk our streets, and we have nothing in common with the people. We have no shared story with the people across the street. We have no shared story with the person on the other side of the political divide. We somehow have listened to the lie of the devil, who would say, you are separate, you're so unique that nobody's like you, and you are the special one, and you're so special that no one can understand you, no one can know what you've been through, no one can understand. No one can bear your story, and so your story is it, and that needs to be primacy. That needs to be the first thing, and all these other stories, forget about them, because they have nothing in common with you. You can see what a lie that is. You can see how divisive it is. You see it, and you see it everywhere. When you start to see it, you see it in everything. Friends, we share all the same ground. We share all the same air. We share all the same things. We all yesterday got blown around by the storm that came through. We all stand in the same storm. We all have a story to tell about that, and it is our stories. And this is, I think, what our spending a little time with Stephen Manchester last night reminded me, that the power of what it is for us to just share our stories, share what it is to be loved, share what it is to have our hearts broken, share what it is to go about the work of our that God has placed us in our hearts, and sometimes have it go fantastically well, and sometimes have it foiled. All of, just as Bible, all of the great floods and the great magnifications and the creations of great nations and the defeats of them, all of them dwell in us, and all of them are our story as well. And so, friends, as we go into this weekend and we get ready for this third Advent Sunday, as we'll gather with our churches and gather with the people that we love, as we'll try to draw a little closer, as we'll fill out a Christmas card or two. Tell your stories. Tell your stories to each other. Think whether you must start. If you have to start with Christmas stories, start there. But wherever you start, remember, we share this ground. We share this very ground of being with those whom we love and those whom we disagree, and all in between. Because we are all children of God, made in the image of God, brought to this place to be a part of this time, to be a part of this story with one another. Peace and grace to you, my friends. I hope you have a great time. I just want to see who came in. Hey, Irene, good morning. Linda, hey, good morning. I hope you're doing all right. Thinking of you and your folks. Andy, good morning to you. Ann, hello. Glad you're with us. Sharon Landry, everybody. Glad you're here. Donna, good morning to you. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to make sure I got everybody's names that I could see. And for all of those of you who are with us, peace and grace to you. Tell your stories these days. And we'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.